Sherlock Holmes, he gets a call that a woman has been died in a luxurious apartment in a suspicious way. Detective Sherlock was called in to unravel the mystery. The broken vase and single shoe hinted at a struggle. The open window suggested an escape route, and the security footage revealed that the real killer The story starts in Edwardian London. 13 May 1954, the story is about a world-famous character, Sherlock Holmes, who worked all his lifetime in shadows to bring the justice to the victims and the culprits to guilty. There are so many unsolved cases of police has been solved by Detective Sherlock. So we are going to know few mysterious cases which the great Sherlock Holmes as well has been manipulated by the masterminds. So without any drag, let's get into the story. Detective Sherlock, a seasoned investigator with a sharp mind and a keen eye for detail, lived in an old, quaint house in the heart of the city. Known for solving some of the most complex cases, Sherlock had a reputation that preceded him. He was out exploring the city, seeking his next big case. Then suddenly he gets a call that a woman has been died in a luxurious apartment in a suspicious way. As he heard the news, he picks up his hat and starts walking. Slowly, as he reached the luxurious apartment, tragedy struck. Mrs. Evelyn Parker, a wealthy socialite, was found dead under suspicious circumstances. The opulent surroundings contrasted starkly with the grim scene. Detective Sherlock was called in to unravel the mystery. Sherlock began his investigation by scrutinizing the apartment. He noticed a few oddities: a shattered vase near the body, an open window with no signs of forced entry, and a single high-heeled shoe under the bed. These clues seemed disconnected, yet Sherlock knew they held the key to the mystery. Sherlock interviewed the building's residents and staff. The doorman mentioned seeing a mysterious figure entering the building the night before. Mrs. Parker's neighbor, Mrs. Davis, heard an argument and says that he saw shadows moving in the hallway. Sherlock reviewed the building's security footage. He spotted a shadowy figure entering Mrs. Parker's apartment around the time of her death. The culprit was careful to avoid showing their face, but Sherlock noticed a distinct tattoo on their wrist. Sherlock identified the tattoo as belonging to a known associate of Mrs. Parker's estranged husband, Mr. Richard Parker. Richard had a history of violent behavior and a potential motive: a bitter divorce settlement. Sherlock confronted Richard Parker. Under pressure, Richard admitted that he had hired someone to scare Evelyn into dropping the divorce proceedings, but things had gone horribly wrong. However, Richard claimed he wasn't responsible for her death. After the complete investigation, Sherlock found Richard innocent. Sherlock released Richard. After knowing about Richard's behavior, he started following Richard thoroughly. Days passed. Sherlock started losing the hope of unsolving the mystery. Suddenly, one day he saw that Mrs. Parker's assistant is meeting Richard secretly. Sherlock found something stranger. As he started digging more, he got to know that Mrs. Parker's assistant is having an affair with Richard. There, Sherlock pieced the final clues together. The broken vase and single shoe hinted at a struggle. The open window suggested an escape route. Mrs. Davis's testimony in the security footage revealed that the real killer was Mrs. Parker's assistant, who had a secret affair with Richard Parker and feared exposure. In a climactic reveal, Sherlock cornered the assistant, who confessed to the crime. As Richard left the house, Mrs. Parker's assistant entered the house, and after seeing her, Evelyn was so angry and started shouting on her. As she's about to say something, Evelyn started slapping her. As in her self-defense, she pushed Evelyn. Evelyn head felt on the vase, and her head got smashed, and then she died. After that, she got panic and ran away from the window. While jumping from the window, one of her shoe fell under the bed. She had intended to scare Evelyn and say something important to her, but ended up killing her in a panic. After the confession of Mrs. Parker's assistant, she found guilty. Just as the case seemed closed, Sherlock received a cryptic message suggesting there was more to the story than met the eye. As Sherlock pondered the new message, he realized this was just the beginning. The true mastermind was still at large, and a more sinister plot was unfolding.